Welcome to the GVTC podcast. I'm John Hill. I'm manager of communications and e-commerce here at GVTC. And today I'm sitting down with Mr. Roger Lewis. He's a good friend of mine, a colleague, but probably more even closer than that, one of my good buddies here at work. And he's
Yes, sir.
recently been promoted to vice president of product management and business development, and been with the company for 20 plus years.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the GVTC podcast, Roger.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Like everything else we do, man, everything's new, everything's different. Appreciate just being a part of it.
What does the average day look like in your role currently, Roger?
Well, I know I said 9 months, so still trying to figure it out. No, you know what? It's super exciting. I've been here 20 years now,
Yeah.
right? And the cool thing I would just say is, man, when I first got here, I mean, if we can go back a little bit, right? When I first got here, I was the accounts receivable supervisor,
Yeah.
right? And I think back to what that company looked like back in 2005. But you know what? A lot of hard work and opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Went over to service center, managed operations for like 12 years. Moved on to product for 7, 8 years now.
Yeah.
And through some of the change. So I think part of that is just all the growing and the opportunity. And I think what I love the most is, right, I think we continue that culture here, that learning and opportunity thing. Now, you take all of that into where we are today, we're in a very different place today than we have been in the last 20 years,
Absolutely.
So I think, the great part that I really enjoy, it's a fresh set of eyes. Eyes coming from a manager level
Yeah.
who's seen a lot of pieces of the company, and you get to provide a little bit different insight, I think, to some of the executives that have been here for the last 20 years,
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun, a lot of changes. I love all the challenges and always have been.
Yeah.
And so new products, we'll probably get into it, I'm sure, but the competition, you go from 2 to about
Right.
12 to 15 in about 2 year span
Yeah.
has been insane. So a lot of learning, a lot of changes, and trying to make sure that the team environment
Right.
is really the biggest thing, because that it's the biggest thing. I think it's almost cliche, right? But it is really all about
Right.
the team and the people around you who actually make you good. And
So you started off like in operations, right? You came in operations, and I know that from working from you, and then you like had a great process of how you optimized, procedures, and
Yeah.
making sure that, and what that means in general terms for like somebody listening to this is that
Yeah.
you made sure that the process of when you ordered your internet connection to when that thing was installed in their house, that flowed as seamlessly as possible,
Yeah.
right? And that's a unique perspective. And now you about 7, 8 years ago, you transitioned into now you're actually developing the products that we sell now and in the future.
right.
And then making sure that those products have market fit and met
Yeah.
customer expectations, and we're also forward facing. What is that? That's two completely different lenses, right?
Yeah.
What has that been like for you to transition from an operations perspective to a almost conceptual delivering services that are going to meet customer demands? What is that? Imagine that's got to have been just a trip of an experience. What has that been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, good question. The operations piece, the one thing that you really kind of hone in on is, right, operational excellence. And really it's, when it comes down to it, right, it's the state of continuous improvement. And when you're in operations and you're connected to so many different departments around the company, you're constantly looking for, how do we improve? I mean, how do we continue to improve, right? How do we make it more automated? What's the data behind it? How do I track it, And at that time, it was kind of a new concept, right? And you have all these employees, and they're like, man, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
why are you asking all that, right? But what you're building is the standard, and that standard now becomes this team who just pop it on all cylinders, right? And I'm really proud of the team that we built.
Yeah.
And I would say that concept that we built. And so, you kind of come to a time and you go, this opportunity comes up in product. Like, man, maybe it's time for a change and take all these really great things I've learned about the operations. Because once you can figure out the product, now it's, right, how do you operationalize it?
Right.
So having some of that knowledge and working with everyone in the company in operations, I think kind of lent the hand to, hey, all the things that we've put together here, now it's, where's the market at? What are the products? Getting relationships with the vendors. What is the latest and greatest?
Yeah.
And so you go from creating a standard in operations to, I think what we took a lot of pride in is creating the standard of value in product.
Yeah.
Because, we can talk about price and everyone's just low price broadband and trying to compete
Which
for
is
that
an easy
customer.
thing to fall into. In
It
our
is.
industry,
We literally just had this conversation.
Right.
But I think where we're different is we really focus and take pride in, what are the products that create the most value for our customers,
Right.
right? We can be competitive priced because we want that customer for the long term.
Right.
And I think being able to always focus on, because we tried things that didn't work, right? Tried that, remember that little smart camera from Honeywell, right?
Yeah.
Great concept. Man, it didn't work,
Right.
Then you finally hit a home run like an Arlo. But it's through that constant research, going to events, partnering up with the right people, learning about what are consumers buying, what do they need?
Yeah.
Because we had a choice to either be a dumb pipe, right? Or create products that can stack on top of that broadband, add the value, and hopefully we serve long-term customers. So creating that standard
Yeah.
was really good. So you kind of go from that operation standard of excellence to standard of value, I think, in product.
So, one of the things I've always admired about you is like you have this really strong sense of just growth mindset, like let's build the plane in the air, we'll figure this out, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really a thing that people can get behind, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've also kind of, just knowing you as long as I have, is that sometimes a lot of people in operations struggle with that, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like, man, like I got to deliver on this, so I can't get too crazy about. And so I think one of the big reasons when I think about you and just the success you've had at GVTC is just that your ability to go from what is practical and deliverable and, like you said, like the excellence, right? But then also having the vision and the ambition, the energy to say what is possible, right? And then to be like, I'm going to have not just the ideas around this, but the energy to get this done.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about how did you become wired that way? I mean, is that something that's just, innate in you that's just who you are? Or is that something that you've developed out of the necessity here at GVTC because it was just something that we had to figure out?
Yeah. Man, that's it. I appreciate that too. 'Cause it is one of those things, right? I would say I give a lot. Okay, I'm gonna go back. I mean, you're talking about my stepdad, actually, right? And I mean, man, you're talking about 9 years old, and here's this guy coming in, and man, he was strict as can be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, man, I have 3 sisters. Man, mom's single, man, we're kind of loose and doing whatever, When he comes in, man, now it's like, man, we got a male figure in the house, man. We're strict and this. It was chores. It was this. You couldn't play. You hated it at the time, and what you realize when you get a little bit older, right? You look back and go, man, he was really just building this work ethic inside you, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't mind doing the hard work. I mean, 15 years old, washing dishes at a Mexican restaurant in Helotes, I didn't mind doing the hard work. I didn't mind doing that. It was just learning, and it was this. And you go through high school. I love sports, man. Played sports and all that. But I was never the best, right? I just always had to work really hard to get my shot. Really hard to work to get my shot.
Never let anybody outwork you.
And I mean, and that's the thing. I know it's never the smartest guy in the room, never the best guy in the room, but I really don't mind trying to outwork everyone.
Right.
And I think once you realize is that we all can do it. But I think overall, that's just how certain things happen. It's you got to convince. Let's just take our Wi-Fi. Man, we had to. There's certain products and certain things, and even operation. You can go auto provision, this and this. When people are here a long time, man, you can kind of get stuck in your ways, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's this new guy, used to be a younger guy, coming in with this energy going, hey, look, you don't understand, man, we got to do this. Man, and you leave some days, man, you just feel like you got punched in the face and you're just like, God, you're worn down. But, the vision for the greater good always, right? You just keep at it, man. You keep at it. And you got to convince people why.
Yeah.
It becomes the why that we learn later, it's all about the why. But you got to convince them and understand it so they can share your vision and see your vision. And it takes a lot of energy to do that.
Yeah.
And so through the years, you kind of get beat down and, hey, you know what? This thing actually worked. We got this one across the finish line. This thing actually worked. Yeah. So now you start building a little trust and a little, some of that behind you. And I think
resilience.
Yeah, that resilience, right? It's that persistence of you grow to love this company so much, and that you seriously, honestly, truly want the very best for this brand, for this company, because of the employees who continuously do that all the time,
right,
fighting for what we believe is the best value for the customer. And so I think through all of that history of just battling out, because truly when it's all said and done, we're all extremely passionate about putting that best thing forward for GVTC, our customers, and everything else. So we're willing to battle it out with each other to kind of be the best, you know. And I truly believe that we are.
So, to kind of go along with that, so you've been here a long time, 20 plus years, right? Served several different roles.
Yeah.
You're also, I know you got a beautiful family. You're
Yeah.
very, you got a daughter in college. You got,
graduated college, John.
Graduated college.
Okay.
Oh, graduated college, right? And
yeah.
she's actually done some internship here, and
Yeah.
I know you just surprised her went up for her birthday, and I've always really admired kind of how you balance the family and element. And I know another thing that you're also super proud of is you've been very active with the GVTC Foundation, and
For sure.
I know that all this kind of leads to that you also see a higher, a better good, right? A part that we all play a role here at GVTC. And I know you value those things. So just talk to me a little bit about what that's like, knowing that you work at, we've all worked at the publicly traded, bottom line driven companies.
Right.
And that's not GVTC, right?
Correct.
So what is that like, knowing that you've also been a part on the board of the foundation in different parts of your career?
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about how that plays a role in your role at GVTC and how you view yourself at GVTC.
Yeah, man. I think it is good. And I appreciate you bringing up, the family, because it is. I think it goes back to values, and I think it goes back to family and what you really believe in. What you want to teach your kids, right, growing up, and it's about giving back and, the always learned of, man, the more you give, right, the more it comes back to you. And I don't think I've ever been in a company where they actually have that same value that we try and do in life, right, that GVTC does.
Yeah.
I think they put so much into this community because, again, being the first ones out here, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when you go back and you kind of laugh about, I say laugh, it's the evolution of this industry and why we love it, because it always changes, right? But, man, it was nothing but some farmers who wanted a phone line, out here in the country.
Nobody's going to do it for
right?
me. I'll do it myself.
Exactly, right? You almost come from that. And so, man, those roots of this community coming together to form this cooperative so they can actually call someone on the phone. And that's where it all starts, right?
Yeah.
So the deep roots in this company comes from that start. And I think we've never, ever forgotten the start and the value of this community that makes us successful,
Yeah.
right? So now being able to give back, you go, man, you know, because you don't want to forget that. And you know what? I think we do believe too, we don't do it to get it all in return. We do it as a partnership with everyone in the community.
Yeah.
And man, you got amazing nonprofits out here that don't have the funding, that don't have the fund. But you know what? Their passion is to go help, you know, someone who was abused, right? Get clothes for someone else, man. Just a small food pantry up the road, all to help the community. So one of the things that I was said was, and it was funny, you mentioned our former jobs, right? And you're kind of held to venture capitalists and all of this, and you're just grinding it out, and you don't. Sometimes you forget the
Deliver
purpose,
meals to the needy.
right?
Like,
Come on, man.
Who's
How
got
about
time
how
for
about
that?
making the extra dollar? You know,
Yeah.
why don't you work a little bit longer and make the extra dollar? And I said, you know, I got on the board way back then. It's been a long time. I said, man, this is the first company that you go, you know, when you don't have time to go give back on the weekends because you have small kids and you're attending events and, you know, maybe you give a little bit here and there. But, man, this company allows you to work and give back and do a lot of good all at the same time.
right.
So maybe where we lacked personally, I didn't have the time outside the company. As the first company, you actually get to combine that.
Absolutely.
And when you want to fill that in your heart or your cup or whatever, and it brings this balance, right? Of I can work hard, I can do these things, we got the families, but man, where I may lack in just giving a little bit, you give a little bit of time, you go repaint. I mean, we rebuilt some decks and paint, and we've trimmed leaves or limbs, and you know, the Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right, and everyone says that's one of their favorites. But like you said, my daughter graduated from college. She's 23. My son is 19. My youngest is 16.
Yeah.
I don't know how long we've been doing that. The Thanksgiving give back, do you know?
It's been over, I think it's right around 15 years now.
15 years, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about that, when my oldest daughter was 8, all 3 of my kids were coming with us every single year.
Yeah.
So now it's through this company, through what we do every day, that now our families get to be involved,
Right.
and you get to teach them about giving back and seeing these people who
Well,
are less fortunate.
That's why I
man.
asked. It's a leading question because you know
Yeah.
I've seen like we're on each other's social.
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
know.
like your daughter
Yeah.
tag you in and just how excited she is about it. You
Yeah.
know, and but my kid is not nearly as positive as yours, but I know that he's seen the value of just
Yeah.
you know, going out and delivering meals, and then you know
Yeah.
you know, if you're, I don't know how many 19-year-old boys you've hung out with, and you have your
my
son.
own, yeah.
But your son is a little bit different than mine. But you know, just in the little things I've heard him say, like, you know, I went out with my dad last Saturday and
Yeah.
with his company,
Yeah.
and we went to deliver meals for
Yeah.
Thanksgiving meal, like, you know. Just in those little things and seeing like other, you know, like your kids sharing that type of stuff.
Yeah.
That type of stuff just doesn't happen at every company.
No,
you know?
it
And
doesn't.
and it's something that you know we really prioritize
Right.
here, and you can't really quantify that in a paycheck, right?
No,
You can't put that on a
no.
resume, but I get a
No.
lot of value personally out of that, and I feel like you probably do as
Yeah.
well.
You know, you really realize too, right? And it's a lot for like little things. Like I love the roundup for change, right?
Yeah.
Roundup on the dollar.
Yeah,
Because that's such a great example of, man, when a lot of people can just give a little bit, the amount of impact that it actually does to a community,
yeah,
man, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's what we all do here at GVTC. And we all may have an hour here, contribute a little bit here through my paycheck or whatever, and all of what we do to combine, you know.
I mean, how
it
many
just gives
people?
back.
I won't say their names, but they rhyme with schmeshmum. How many schmeshmum customers are able to give an extra 50% on their bill and send Elisa from Smithson Valley to go to school at Texas or Texas A&M?
Yeah, right.
You know,
Right.
That's an important part of
Man.
who we are at GVTC. You know.
It is, and you know, it's funny you mentioned that. I was I was thinking about that because there are other competitors in our areas that we compete with all the time.
Right.
In the market, we're not afraid to go compete and whatever. It's all the things that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like, man, and I know we can always do better, right? Excellence, continuous improvements,
Yeah.
always, right? But man, when you know how much goes on inside this company, and man, truly, it's almost like when every customer leaves, it is like,
You take it personal. Right?
yeah, you almost feel like, God, man, what didn't we do, right?
Right.
Like, because national companies that are coming in all around us that are competing for these same customers, like we know in our hearts, right, that they don't care as much as we do.
Absolutely.
That not only for our community, which we just had that conversation with, but even for that customer.
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that there's a guy that won't do the same, but I mean, we literally will go forwards and backwards and upside down to help customers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who else, what other national provider can you call for anything and you have someone live on the phone in like 30 seconds, right?
Yeah, Laura is gonna pick up the phone, or
Yeah.
Nika is gonna pick up the phone, and that she lives, right there by you,
Yeah.
in the community where you're at, right,
Yeah.
and help you with your problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny about, because I think about that, especially now, right? I am in a new role, looking at these products. Pricing is always, God, what can we do? What can we do? And we try and get as creative as possible. We had this conversation in our PTF meeting, right?
Yeah.
About that good enough companies, right?
Yeah.
You know why they can really price it really low? Because they're not committed to the speeds and reliability that we are.
Given the value,
Right?
that we
The value of the products, right? Because they don't mind if you wait on the phone for 30 minutes before someone picks up,
Right.
And then you get transferred on hold for another 10 minutes, right?
right,
Their customer service satisfaction scores are a negative 80 points, right? But all of that is good enough, and I can chop off pricing because I'm not going to hire and staff up people to do better. Why?
yeah,
And I think we are so the exact opposite, that we will do what it takes to create the value, answer those phones. So yeah, when a customer leaves us for that, other companies, it's like, we do take it personal, man.
yeah. I'm saying we're both passionate guys. We know
Yeah.
each other for a long time,
Yeah.
right? And I almost, it's almost to my own detriment sometimes how personal I take some of that type of stuff, right?
No.
But it's just because we care.
It is,
right?
yeah, right.
And it's like I wouldn't have it any other way. I'd be doing the wrong thing. Either one of us, we're doing the wrong thing, and we don't
Right.
take some of that personal, right?
Right.
And I think that's also a reason why GVTC has been as successful as we have in the past. And that's something that I think that I hope that the next generation of employees that comes behind us, as we get a little bit age, a little bit older,
Yeah.
and a little bit more experience, I hope people, as they listen to this 20 years from now, kind of gather that and continue that.
Right.
Speaking a little bit about the future, right?
Yeah.
I know you're on the front lines of cutting edge technology. You just launched a 5 gig and a 2 gig product
Yeah.
into the market, and I know you're also looking at a lot of different things around smart home technology. What do you think
Right.
the future of the products and services we provide look like at GVTC?
Man, it's tough, to be honest, because, right, there's companies out there that the broadband we kind of mentioned earlier, you kind of almost have to choose. Do you want to be the pipe that provides everything in the household, or do you want to be part of that ecosystem?
Yeah.
And I know for us, one of the things that we've always said differentiates us from all the other providers, internet providers at least, is that we're a security dealer as well, right? So that really lends us into this whole other smart home world that it's a little bit foreign to others. So, right, we went from the pro monitoring and kind of made that a smart monitoring, right? Things that get a little bit more automated inside your home. That was kind of that first evolution from just push my numbers on my panel.
And we had to figure that out.
I know, right?
Too, right? That
Right.
was a process in itself.
Yeah,
too, right?
you know. And then we launched our Wi-Fi 6, right? Breaking, you know, it was the latest and greatest because we knew
Yeah.
our Wi-Fi was bad. It was a bad customer experience, and we had to improve. So we committed to.
We also knew the customers didn't know the difference or care, or maybe not know. They didn't care about the difference about hardline fiber, you know, to your router connection
Right.
being 200 meg or 200,
Right.
200 meg, right?
Right.
They wanted 200 meg at the router, and then they also wanted it out on their couch while they're playing
Yeah.
on their phone or in bed while they're about to go to sleep.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, right? So then our next commitment was, all right, we're not going to do this anymore, right? We're going to launch the latest and greatest, and we're going to commit. No dead zones, a buffer-free home, right? We all hate the Netflix and the buffering and things like
Man,
that,
I like the Instagram on the patio. Dude. That's how
Right,
I roll.
right.
Old guys roll like that.
right? So we committed, right? All right, guys, rolling. Yeah. Buffer-free home, no dead zones,
Both
man.
our kids just cringed, by the way. When they
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So that was our next commitment. And when we went from there, all the research said, man,
Yeah.
people love security, but man, they like to do it themselves, right? The new era of, you know,
The days
Arlo's
of somebody calling me on the phone
and
every
getting
time I
the-
open a door.
yeah, you know. So man, we evolved into smart home, the kind
DIY
of breaking
security,
DIY
yeah.
security, right? Doorbells and easy to install cameras, and so now we got the perfect mix.
Right.
Right now, we start to understand what customers want.
That's our fastest
the
growing
evolu-
product too, outside of broadband, is that
Man, absolutely.
Arlo DIY
Absolutely.
package.
When you think of the change of consumers,
Yeah.
when Pro Monitored was all that you had, and we had about 6,000 customers or so, we've been a dealer for over 30 years, right? And what are we, 3 years now with Arlo, and we've already surpassed or met the same amount that we have in 30 years. So when you bundle that,
We're actually what, 13,000?
yeah. So
It's crazy.
So when you have that, right, that was a nice home run. It wasn't the other thing that failed.
Yeah.
That was a nice home run. But it's because we're paying attention, you know, products that customers value. And we were a security dealer, and we weren't afraid to go after it, you know. And so that opens up the door. And like I said, so when you ask about where we're heading to, you mentioned smart home, things like that. We just launched our multi-gig. Our Wi-Fi 7 routers are now up on the, you know, here in the edge of the horizon now.
Yeah.
Multi-gig was huge, primarily because as you upgrade your networks, your ability to deliver even higher tiered speeds
Right.
is kind of what the market was doing as well. And we needed to make sure this old country, you know, Texas co-op out here can deliver everything else that they can nationally.
Stay competitive. in the
Right.
market.
But where we continue to differentiate is this security area where now we kind of evolved from the no dead zones, right? Wi-Fi everywhere, to really what we're really envisioning is what we call the digital harmony, right? That smart living and digital harmony. And that really is all about the lifestyle that you have and the chaos of digital streaming and gaming and working from home. And man, I got smart speakers and, you know, Netflix, and I want to go outside and enjoy like you do, right? Same thing on social media.
Yeah.
You love hanging out, listening to music, grilling and barbecue, hanging outside. Well, we want that digital harmony. We want to cut the chaos.
Right.
So we go from connecting everything, right, to this now kind of evolving. It's cut the chaos, and we want to make your surrounding and lifestyle this harmony, you know. So we call it the digital harmony. Kind of, I think that is the next evolution that we believe in. So whether it's a door lock, Arlo cameras, Pro Monitored cameras, smart speaker, whatever these things that we kind of see on the horizon, you know, we don't want that. We don't want to be the dumb pipe. We want to be that provider who's going to provide you the lifestyle that you want.
Right.
And we want to be able to have options for you, just like, do you want pro monitored or do you want a self-monitored camera? Whatever you want, we'll provide it for you.
Yeah.
Let us be that one-stop provider. You don't need to go through all these different places to get your door lock or thermostat or whatever. So, I look at that as kind of being the next evolution. And what we kind of call these lifestyle packages.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like, why don't you tell me how you want to live? Let's see what we can do to package that up for you. Oh, and by the way, yeah, broadband comes with it.
Right.
Every
like an experience in your home.
Exactly, because everyone can deliver the broadband now.
Yeah.
And now we went from, one or two national providers to about 15 different providers.
Seems like it's growing every day.
Yeah.
Right?
There's like literally 15 competitors in this market now.
Yeah.
Where other than the last 2 years, about the last 18, 20 years,
Right.
there's really only been about two that we really had to compete with.
So thinking about that, right? Like, you've done some remarkable things, like the Arlo thing, and just watching that firsthand. I think it's a real testament to, like we talked about, just your resilience to have a concept and an idea and an energy to bring it home.
Yeah.
And we see the results now. That being like our second fastest or second largest product now. Imagine you have unlimited resources, and you have a divergent mind of, you have a growth mindset that really understands that anything is possible.
Yeah.
Imagine you have all the resources in the world. What is a product that you think that you would love to bring to market for GVTC at some point?
Oh, God.
And if this completely blows up, we can cut this totally out. But I thought it'd be a compelling question.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know what that is. I'll tell you what I think about a lot. Everything that we just talked about with that digital harmony, right? We're now getting into MDUs.
Yeah.
Well, you take that inside your home. What about the guys inside the apartments, okay? So creating that lifestyle within these high rises, condos, middle market, whatever.
Basically expanding the home experience across different kind of segments in the market, right?
But then the other piece that we really haven't dove into, which is now on the horizon as well, is you talk about property management. So do you know that like in an MDU, right? You think of the apartment complexes that, way back in the day we were living in.
Yeah.
But there's common areas. There's pools, tennis courts. Now there's dog parks and who knows what, right? There's gates, security gates, all these things.
Yeah.
Well, most property managers or developers have to go to about 4 to 5 different vendors to get that. Again, where do we differentiate? I want to see us really successful at the property management side of there's a software involved with that. You got access control for the gates. You have community Wi-Fi within the pool area. So you think of this no dead zone as you're in this property, right? You think of that, but then also how do they manage a flood leak on the 3rd floor? How do you catch that through a smart alert, right? So you got flood detectors now, There's all of these different things, our hosted PBX for the phone services. We have video surveillance for the property if we want. So this is a whole area that we really haven't gotten into that I think is moving fast, and we're on the verge of getting there.
Yeah.
And then, so now you got a property where you can do the property management, all of the things that they need as they're building construction, security, video surveillance, and then everything that we do, I think, really well for inside a residential house, broadband. Do you need TV? Do you need a Arlo doorbell? Do they want a smart speaker? The door, So there's certain things like that that we traditionally haven't done. So I would say maybe in the more near future, I think that's where our biggest opportunity for growth, development, continue to be the one provider who wants to provide the ecosystem and not just the broadband, I think is where there's a lot of opportunity. when you go beyond that, it's
Crapshoot. Who knows what the future holds as far as
yeah.
technology
But
is,
as
right?
long as we're all doing it and we're all understanding that we don't have to be one thing, we don't have to be just a broadband provider. I remember a story that I heard, and it kind of gets you thinking, and you can even almost take this to Amazon, right? Where they started and look at all the diversity that they have today. But someone who wanted to start their own business, and so they bought a laundromat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they redid the laundromat, you get the laundromat, and you go, golly, what else can I do? How do I differentiate? How do I create different channels? Oh, okay, well, you know what? Let's get, vending machines. Now I have a laundromat with vending machines, right? Great. Now I have a laundromat. If they wanted to do dry cleaning or pressed shirts, we can offer premium service, right? So now they have a stack. Oh, you know what? If they want to deliver their boxes, we'll get some lockers outside the laundromat, right? Now all of a sudden, this one little laundromat now has about 8 different channels of revenue, new products, and services.
Yeah.
So it's really, how do we continue to look at being the service provider? How do we continue to diversify the things that we can do that consumers want?
Yeah.
Consumers want and continue to add value,
So
right?
kind of like the Amazon, the cloud services was a byproduct of their original e-commerce business, right?
Right.
Now it's it's their main revenue source, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you think of, the bookstore to music, Prime,
basically owning e-commerce.
Think of their brand, right? They're more of a experienced brand than they are just provider of goods, right?
Yeah.
So that's where, when you're in the marketing group, right? And you think about brand all the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when we go, when we leave here, I always just want to think, what will people think of our brand, right? Are we just a provider, or are we something?
Are we on the
different?
cutting edge of figuring out new ways to solve people's problems?
Right, yeah.
That's definitely a big part of what I think about as being not just a technology company, but kind of somebody that's really trying to solve problems for people,
Right.
One thing that, I think we think about a lot is, we have a core area that was, like we talked about, started by basically ranchers and farmers who provide service here, right? But I also know you. I know you're a super high energy, super high growth guy, right? Do you ever see a place where, we provide services from everywhere from Bernie to Blanco to Gonzales, North Stone Oak area.
Yeah.
Jordan, who is basically the Jamie of this podcast, right? He's always asking me, when are you guys going to bring fiber into New Braunfels? He's like, man, I hate my fiber provider. When are you coming into New Braunfels?
Right.
Do you ever see GVTC expanding out, edging out into different markets? Do you think that's something that's on the horizon?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're going to do the right strategy, of course. But, we talked about, we went from about 2 competitors to about 15 in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
When you step back and you go, what does the future look like, right? Not only from a product, but like you said, what does our market look like?
Yeah.
And the thing is, it kind of took us, I think, by surprise that national builders have national agreements with other providers.
Yeah.
So in our backyard, where we used to have all the rooftops, all the new customers and developments, they're coming in and go, hey, thanks GVTC, but we don't actually need you, right?
Right.
So when you step back and you go, all these providers now in competition, they look at our little market as just a bleep in their map. We look at this as our whole entire livelihood and everything that we're doing. Mm-hmm. And we want to be able to continue to serve our market. And we go, I don't think that there's a reason why we can't expand that out. And what we do really well, all the things that we've already talked about, but let's take it to New Braunfels.
Right.
Maybe edge out, right? San Antonio. There's tons of growth up in New Braunfels. Marble Falls.
Yeah.
The I-10, corridor and things like that. And Do we know exactly how yet? No. Do you know exactly where and what? Maybe not quite yet. But I would say this, as we move forward, I think we'd be kidding ourselves if we're not looking at everything on the table. We didn't have to look at it before. You know, we've been so blessed by this area and the growth into the area that, man, it's really helped us and set us up for a lot of success.
Well, the thing I always think about when you say that is like, what technology company do you know of that's currently sitting back like, oh, I'm just going to kick back and
Yeah.
kind of let this thing ride out, I'll be
Yeah.
fine. I'll just stay in my lane. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine one boardroom or executive room where that is a conversation happening. And it really can be no different for us, right?
It happened to Blockbuster, right?
Yeah, Blockbuster did it,
right?
right?
They're like, man, everything's
Absolutely.
good. Everyone's written movies on Friday nights.
That's a great point. Blockbuster and Radio Shack
Yeah,
must have been
right.
vacationing together.
Yeah, exactly, right? And you learn from that, man, when things are really, really good and you go, man, no one's going to touch what we made here,
Right.
Now we've been here for 75 years, and it's been a really amazing run to see all the success and the growth out here. Like I said, we've all been blessed by the natural growth in our area.
Yeah.
But, we'd be fools not to go, oh, this will just continue forever, right? And that's why we diversify our products, diversify what we do, the people we bring in, the talents that we bring in.
Right.
Because what we were, it's not what the people that we need. And we talk about great people.
And us young guys in our 30s, we got to make sure that the guys in their 20s.
Are you 30 yet? Yeah.
We got to make sure that we leave a successful legacy and think for them to manage as well, right?
Yeah. Well, absolutely, man.
That's the way I always think about it.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. We want to put our stamp on what we've done in this career. And you mentioned, the employees and things like that. The thing is, man, it's up to us to lead them and develop them, right? And I think that's the most fun part about this company. Is we want to hire the best people and the most talented, and while we have them under our wings, it's up to us to develop, right, and continue to bring all these employees along to where we're heading and what we're doing. And if we don't have the skill sets, do we need to hire or someone willing to learn, right?
Yeah.
And man, you give others opportunity, because we've had that. You're a communications guy, title-wise, but you're probably one of the best in data, analytics, writing report, learning how to write scripting and Power BI, doing all of these things. I know, right?
Go on.
Right, I know. I mean, not that you've written me a report, but, right? But it's because you've been allowed to evolve and learn in the passions that you have, and you filled gaps that GVTC had.
Yeah.
And I've been, right? I mean, that's like my whole story here. And just continue to give opportunity. I think that's where we, as young 30-year-olds, get to continue to ensure that we do that for everybody else behind us.
I tell people all the time that, I have such love for this place because it's just given me the opportunity to just go figure it out. There's not a lot of structure about what, it's like, these are the problems we have to solve. We hired you to do it.
Yeah.
We have faith in you to do it. We're going to give you the autonomy to figure this out. And we just figured it out, right?
Yeah.
And that continues to evolve what that is defined as.
Yeah.
Right? But, I'm from this area, right? Mm-hmm. And I grew up in New Braunfels, graduated from New Braunfels High School, and that's just a special feeling, you know? And that kind of leads me into this. Imagine, those ranchers never took the initiative to start the cooperative. Imagine, me and you are never here. There is no GVTC.
Yeah.
What do you think this area looks like if there's no GVTC serving our community? What do you think that looks like?
Well, golly. They'd be waiting a long time for a national provider to finally go, financially, does it make sense to maybe get to that farmer and it'd be a long time to get out here and do it. They'd chase the money. As long as there was developments out here, they would chase the money. As long as they got paid to continue to build, I think they would do it. And I think that's right. That's the difference when, like you said, the initiative of farmers figuring out how to develop a co-op to deliver to their own communities and not sit back and wait for someone to do it for them, right?
It'd be that. There'd be, there'd be no, there'd be no Laura from New Braunfels serving people of New Braunfels.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of high school students that, would be minus $20,000-$30,000 of their college education from right here. That was partly funded by their parents paying their internet bill, right?
And that the amazing thing. I think that's the thing. A lot of people don't understand the cooperative piece of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's right. We're not a publicly shared company. We're not owned by venture capitalists. Literally, the people who we serve are the owners of this company.
Absolutely.
And it is our job, right, to continue to serve, right? We always say, what's our mission? That long-term viability.
Yeah.
We're a 75-year-old co-op.
Yep.
We're the largest in Texas, right? Top 3, top 5 in the nation.
Right.
And when you ask, God, what would this be if it wasn't for all of the members, owners, right, who continue to ensure that, hey, man, it's just our job to keep doing the right things, right? So we can ensure to give back to them.
Be good stewards of this thing.
Yeah.
And maintain the
We
legacy.
yeah.
So, me and you we both know we could talk for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah,
like it's
absolutely.
nothing, right? And probably you put a couple beers in front of us, it'd go to 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah.
But I need to wrap it up and bring it home. One of the things that I always want to, especially somebody who's been as successful as you and done all the great things you've done, now that you're in your upper 30s, could you go back a few years to that young kid at 20, 25 years old and give them one piece of advice? What would that be?
Golly, man. It's tough because we talked about all the hard work. And when I look back, I didn't have a vision. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't know what I wanted to do, what industry I wanted to be in. I was interpreting for sign language, for the deaf, right? I had no clue.
What you wanted to do.
But I got into an industry, this telecom industry, but all I knew is I was willing to learn, I was willing to work hard. Yeah. And as I grew, right, now, I had a lot of patience. Well, I would say this, thanks to my wife, she gave me a lot of patience. But, man, there's no substitute for working hard, taking the opportunities. Maybe some I wish could have done a little bit sooner. I wish I had a little bit more knowledge, But there's a plan for me somewhere, and somewhere along the way I had ambitious goals, and I'm happy to say that I've met most of them. Yeah. Well, in the last with this new role. But man, I look at my son today, right? So he's about that age, no clue. Yeah. And really, the advice is just, man, take a risk, work hard. And man, as long as you keep doing the right things and working hard, I truly, honestly believe whatever your goals are, whatever my goals were, right? You'll get there. Yeah. I just didn't know what they were for such a long time. Right. So probably not anything big, but I would just say the biggest recipe was take on the things
nobody else is willing
to do.
Take
on the things no one else is willing to do.
Work hard.
And man, don't complain less. Yeah. And it's easy to complain about, I don't make this much money, or man, I don't get this. I got passed up for this opportunity. The thing is you keep working hard, keep looking forward, right? And I think really good things will always come. Yeah. If you're willing to. So
that's good.
Probably not.
Well, I appreciate you doing this, Roger. Yeah. Congratulations again on your recent promotion to VP.
Thank
I'm
you.
so excited for the future of the company and seeing
Thanks,
what
man.
you and your team are able to bring forward for our customers and for the future of GVTC.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I tell you what, and I will just say this, and I appreciate it. And I forgot who I was just talking to earlier. It is, man, it is. Yeah. Anyway, I've been here so long. There's been so many people who are still here that through all the years of me learning and failing and whatever, right? But they're still here, and man, thank goodness for all these great people, honestly, around, because they really do all the hard work, right?
Yeah.
They just need a fool in the front to keep failing forward and trying new things, right?
Yeah.
But it really is, man, and I appreciate that because I had, like I said, long goals and 20 years, right?
Yeah.
It's not no short thing, but man, the people here, everything that I think was given, man, everyone together, we do it as a team.
Yeah.
And man, it's just, I appreciate it so much. I'm just so appreciative of it. So thank you, man.
Yeah,
Thanks
man. Good,
for all your
good,
support.
good talking to you.